When I was first diagnosed in 2000, in the summer of 2000, you know how you get diagnosed and almost the very next thing is, okay, choose a medicine, right? And you get so excited. Well, I got so excited because I was like, yes, this is going to help. This is going to make me better. And I was finishing my first round of IV solumedrol, 3 days. I never had it before. It was, the first flare that was treated. I can't say it was my first flare, but the first flare that we recognized what it was. And I went to the hospital and had the solumedrol drip like for 3 days in a row. And I remember my my neurologist at the time, and this was at a very prestigious hospital in Philadelphia, and he was the head of neurology there. So of course, back then I'm 22, and I'm like, oh my gosh, he's gonna be great, because I had faith in the medical industry back then. Kind of sad. I kind of wish I had that same faith still, but I've just learned too many things on my own. Anyway, that's a different video. So he said, well, if you like the way the solumedrol is helping you, just wait until you get on beta-seron. And I was like, oh my gosh, the beta-seron. Like, it made me think that it was going to help my symptoms. Didn't do that. It did make me sick every other day, because beta-seron is a subcutaneous injection that you do every other day. And it can give some pretty significant flu symptoms. So I'd have to take, 2 Tylenol 2 hours before my injection, 2 Tylenol with my injection, and then 2 more Tylenol a couple hours after my injection. That's a lot of Tylenol. And that was, it was only 20 years ago, but it seemed like the dark ages, because that was before we were really thinking about how much Tylenol is too much. Anyway, so I did beta-seron for about 5 years, and then I moved to a different state and got a different neurologist, and he asked me, like, well, how often are you having flares? And I'm like, several times a year. And he said, well, maybe you're on the wrong medication. And I kind of had gotten into this comfortable place with beta-seron, like I knew how it affected me, and I don't know, it's weird how you can get attached. So I was like, okay. And still back then there was what they called the ABC medications: Avonex, beta-seron, Copaxone, and then there was Rebif. I'm not really aware of what else was really out there in 2005 other than drastic things like chemo or IVIG. But so I didn't want to do Avonex because I didn't want to do the intramuscular. I know that's stupid. If it's going to be something that helps you, just do it. But I was 27 and I was like, I don't want to do that. So I chose Copaxone, everyday subcutaneous injection. And the great thing was, for me, I had 0 side effects from it. So that was a big improvement in my life. And it did also seem like my flare-ups slowed down. It's hard to judge when there's so much stuff going on in your life and you don't know, is this the stress from this or what have you. But that was a move from one state to another, and they were, it was quite a big move. And so I had a pretty big flare-up when I first got to the new state, and a while until I had a doctor to send me to get solumedrol or change my medication or what have you. So I don't know what happened. I don't know if there was just damage from that or if Copaxone wasn't quite as strong. I don't know, and I'll probably never know. And there's so much mystery to MS because it is so different between people, and the medications work differently for people. And not only that, they work differently. Like, one might work for you for a couple of years, and all of a sudden you build up antibodies to it and it doesn't anymore. So for all of the people who are new to this, I totally understand why you're overwhelmed. In a way, we were lucky back in the day when we only had 3 or 4 to choose from, and they weren't that different from one another. And now I don't even know how many there are. I think it's in the teens how many there are. So I was on Copaxone for about 4 years. And then I was like, maybe there's something stronger. So that puts me around 31, 32. And I think part of me was starting to think about the future, and the fear was getting to me. And I thought, maybe there's something I can do that's stronger, that can really, something that's cutting edge. So I was switching neurologists anyway. And I liked I chose my new neurologist because he was very cutting edge, very into clinical trials, stuff like that. And I wanted someone who was very pro medication and really understood them and blah, blah, blah. So funny to think about where I am now, but it's a journey for sure. They're not kidding when they say that. So the only other real thing that I knew of out there that was like the most powerful was Tysabri. So I went on Tysabri for 2009, 2010. I think technically it was like 2.5 years. So that's a monthly infusion. It's sort of a chemotherapy. I'm not a doctor and I'm not a pharmacist, but it will inhibit your immune system because our immune system is attacking us. So the meds are designed to change how our immune system functions or settle it down, or a combination of both. That's my layman's term explanation. So I did find myself catching every little thing when I was on Tysabri. It made me feel like I had lead pumped into my veins for the day after and a couple days, But I did feel fairly good on it. I have to say, not really different than the Copaxone though. But I was thinking long term, thinking, okay, this is just going to be stronger and make me have more longevity of feeling good. Then for whatever reason, I got freaked out. I got freaked out about PML. I was JV negative, but I know that you can contract the JV virus and not know it, and it's kind of like COVID that way, and then you're at bigger risk. And I saw a YouTube video of a lady who had PML and she was getting treatment, and I just got freaked out, and I thought, no, it's not for me. So I went back on Copaxone. On Copaxone, the drug that I had taken with no problem, went back on Copaxone and had anaphylactic shock. I was very lucky. It didn't get to the point where it killed me that night, but that was rough. And can you believe, I told my doctor, and he said, okay, well, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you a little, he's like, take it with Benadryl and take this steroid with it and do half a dose every other night, like a way to sort of titrate up. And this medicine that had almost just killed me, I was like, okay. And I took it for another year. But the whole reason I went off Tysabri is because I started just getting this, I started changing on the inside. And I know there's a lot of you out there that are very pro medication and you like what they're doing for you. It's choice. It's a life choice. It's, you're educated, you know what the side effects are, you know what the here and now, what it does for you here and now, and what it'll do for you in the future. But you also know that some of these medicines have serious long-term side effects and can lead to other things like cancer and what have you. So it's always going to be a trade-off. It's always going to be a decision. And there's no right and there's no wrong. It's going to be how you feel about it and how you weigh things up yourself. And at that point, I thought, I'm going to take a different approach. It was pretty radical. I decided that I was going to go off of those MS medications. And I told myself that, okay, yes, my immune system is attacking my nervous system. But is the only way just to weaken my immune system. And I'm just thinking about it in my own head, and maybe I'm crazy, and maybe none of it makes any sense, and maybe, I'm going to be a quadriplegic. These are all possibilities. But in my heart of hearts, I thought, I think instead of trying to hinder or, affect the way my immune system works, I'm going to nourish it. Which sounds insane. If you have MS and you've been following the protocols and your doctor's advice and stuff, you're never supposed to take vitamin C, don't eat elderberry, anything that strengthens your immune system, don't take it, because it just gives it more ammunition to attack you. And that's what I'd been told the whole time, and that's what I believed. And I changed my mind, and I thought, what if I nourish my immune system? Because I'd never had a reaction from vitamin C or anything like that. And I thought, what if I nourish my immune system and maybe it's malfunctioning. And I mean, when your computer's glitching, you don't take a sledgehammer to it and do that. When something's not working properly, the answer isn't to make it work even less. And maybe this doesn't apply. I'm saying, I keep saying that because I don't want you to just say, well, I saw this video and I followed it and now, I'm in a wheelchair or something. I don't know. I just can tell you that I'm not a doctor, and this is mostly, I'm telling you this because I'm sharing how we're all on this journey together and how it is so very different for all of us. And anyway, so I went off of the Copaxone. I believe that was 2012 or 2013. And I took the symptom medications, anti-spasms and the bladder medication and, all that stuff that we all know about. I took the symptom medications, but I didn't take any of the disease-modifying therapies that are out there. And in one way, it was really freeing because it wasn't every day think of an injection or how long since my last infusion, how many infusions have I had, am I JV positive, blah, blah, blah. So in that way, it was very freeing. But it was also scary because it was a huge risk, and no doctor wanted me to do this. No doctor. In fact, they kept pressuring me to go back on Tysabri specifically. Serious pressure. And I said to my doctor, I looked him straight in the face and I said, okay. And I think it's 1 in 1,000 people. I don't know what the statistics are now, but I think at the time it was 1 in 1,000 people or whatever contract PML. It's probably way different now. But anyway, it was a statistic about how many people get this from taking Tysabri. And I said to him, if you had a daughter, or if you do have a daughter, would you take the risk? And the man wouldn't answer me. He wouldn't. I asked him again. Don't think he didn't hear me. Would you do it? That's my dog drinking water, in case you're wondering. Strange noises. It's probably the dog. He didn't answer me, and I kind of felt a little bit vindicated. Yeah, it's all well and good to tell a patient that, but when you're thinking about a family member or yourself, it's a bit different. Hopefully I can make this edit smooth. I got a phone call, so I had to stop and start again. But as I was saying, they were pressuring me to continue taking Tysabri. I'd never experienced that pressure before because I'd never said no before to a neurologist. And it was, I have to say, it was a bit enlightening because I thought, I just never knew doctors could bully you. What I mean by bullying, I'll define a term. What I mean by that is they would pretty much say things that were scary, your disease is going to progress faster. You're going to be in a wheelchair in this many years, that many years, what have you. And I don't know why it didn't work on me. I think because I felt like they were attempting to manipulate me, and I have a strong reaction to that kind of tactic. But anyway, I did a lot of research, and I found LDN, low dose naltrexone. I was Googling every night, sometimes to the wee hours of the morning, because we have a lot of insomnia. So I thought, might as well do some work, and I found it. And I found that there were not big tests that had been run in the United States, but there were a lot of anecdotal stories, and there were some tests that were run, some tests and trials that had been run in Europe and other places, and it was enough. That and reading the science behind it was enough for me to want to try it. Finding a neurologist to prescribe is a whole different deal, and back then I was completely ignorant of naturopaths, so I was living in a state where there wasn't an abundance of naturopaths. Anyways, I'm rambling, but I think it's because that part of my life was so sort of trying to figure things out and trying to really forge my own path and figure out my own personal journey. Because at that point, it had been 14 years since diagnosis. I found a neurologist. I asked him about LDN. I was fully ready for the pressure. I was ready for anything he was going to throw at me. And he's like, yes, I do prescribe that. In fact, I have several patients who are doing quite well on it. And I was like winning the lottery. I was so excited. So I started it. And that was 2014. It's 2020. And in the next video, I'm going to tell you what's worked, what hasn't, how it's helped, and how it's changed me, and what else I'm doing in conjunction with it. So stay tuned for that next one. Have a good night.